Let us do it.
We're
We begin
here.
now. Here
I
we
am
are.
beginning
Hello. I am
Hello.
Olivia.
And I am Amy.
And
this
this
is
Girls
a girl's gone
Spooky.
spooky. Yeah,
I've had
perfect.
like 3 sips of wine.
Uh-huh.
This is what you get today.
That's what happens on a Tuesday evening.
Club
It's just
going
the way
up
it goes.
on a Tuesday.
Mhm.
I just had this like overwhelming feeling that I wish we lived in the same place. Noah is going out with friends on Saturday night, and I was like, what will I do on Saturday night? And I thought, I'd like to hang out with Amy. Damn it.
That would be a dream
That'd
come
be
true.
so nice.
Yeah. Maybe one day.
Mhm.
You never know what's gonna happen. We might be like 70, but
Yeah,
you know,
whatever.
still. Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And you're either in our old age, either I want to live by the mountains or you want to live by the ocean.
Well, I would absolutely love to live by the ocean.
Okay, amazing.
So
You come to me then.
I prefer ocean to mountains, even though I live
Yeah, I guess that's
here.
true. I always thought you were like pretty tied.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
when
don't
you were
know.
younger.
I think, yeah. But like when I got my palm read, and she ended up being like a more of a psychic than just a palm reader, and she was like, the first thing I see is the ocean when she was like reading me. So
all right, Amy.
It's time.
Wrap it up.
Yep.
Let's go. California, here we come.
I think we have to go to Mexico. That's my vote.
That'd be really fun. And it'd be so cheap. We could retire younger. Younger than 70.
Yeah. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
40 more years of work ahead of us.
Hey, whoa, not 40. Well, kind of though. Maybe
almost
70, 71. Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah, no.
Well, another important topic.
Yes.
Love is Blind season 8 reunion.
Yeah. What do you have to say? Oh, go first.
Okay, the way I just said it is I hated everyone except for Taylor and Daniel, but I loved the drama. Like,
yes.
I also, Devin. Okay, fast forward if you don't want spoilers, because we're about to spoil it. Devin was like a stealth douchebag. Like, the whole time I was just like, oh, he's not smart, but he's kind. Yeah. And then at the end I was like, oh, no. And the whole time I thought Virginia was kind of weird. Like, you and I talked about that, like, all that, like,
yeah.
like, weird, like, she's, like, trying so hard to be, like, soft or something. It's really made me squeamish. But she showed up really well at the reunion. Like, all the women showed up so well. Monica, she was just like, oh, this man did not like me, and I'm embarrassed watching this back.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like, oh, he clearly doesn't like you. Like, I didn't feel that. It did seem like he was holding back, but I was just like, whatever, he's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I also didn't think, like, the way she was talking about being embarrassed, I didn't get that sense. I mean, no. But this whole season
would have been different.
Yes. And this whole season, I feel like they focused a little bit less on, like, the physical relationships, other than when Dave was going around and asking everybody if they had sex yet. But
that was hilarious.
Otherwise,
I think that has to do with the city.
Yeah. I agree.
I think they're really religious. Like, I think every couple, at least one, other than Sarah, one person was, like, God was very important to them. And I got the sense that, like Taylor and Daniel seemed totally normal, and they were like, we were waiting for marriage.
Right.
Like, I'm not under the impression that they were both virgins, but I think they didn't sleep together, which I thought was really interesting.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad they're still together.
Me too.
Like
also, she got big old titties.
Yeah. We didn't really see that. I guess when they were trying on dresses, her mom was like, pull that up.
Yeah, and also that time
But,
when they were at the putt-putt, and I was like, wow, she has big boobs. Because she was
oh.
wearing like a really fitted top, but her boobs were like spilling out of her bra under the top. Like, I
Uh-huh.
know that I'm so like hyper aware of that because that happens to me, and I hate that look. I think it looks so bad. So
Mhm.
it's like, okay, girl, you gotta
I
size
see
up
that.
that bra.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, wow, the drama. And also Denver
Oh, I
is the
know.
next one.
I can't wait to
I
see
can't wait. I want
how
some
Denver.
cowboys.
Okay, yeah, that could be
I want to see
cool.
a cowboy. Like I want like I'm from Greeley, smells like meat. Like
Yeah, that's true. Okay,
NPS.
yeah, I don't know why I
I
was
want one
like
of those.
limiting myself to just
Hmm.
Denver. I wasn't thinking about Colorado. It could be
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah, anybody.
Okay, yeah, let's
Right?
get some
Because I
people from
mean,
Greeley.
what if, oh my God, what if someone from your hometown is there?
I know. I
Like from
hope
your high
so.
school or something?
I would hope
From Pooter?
so. From Pooter High School,
From Pooter High.
making us proud.
Oh my
Pooter Impalas.
God. Pooter Impalas. I don't know why I'm
We'll
giving them
see.
a southern accent, but I
You
see a
know,
cowboy, I feel like they should have kind of a southern accent.
or yeah, just some sort of like country drawl.
Midwestern, yeah, country
Hmm.
drawl.
Yeah,
I'm very excited for that.
me too. I
So I
wonder when
guess we
it
should just
comes
plan to
out.
watch it together in
Yeah,
person.
let's do that. We have to stay with each other for 6 weeks.
Or just wait until the whole thing comes out.
That's
Whatever.
a better idea than what I just said.
I
So,
mean, or just fly back and forth. I come for the first Friday, you come for the
mhm,
second, I come for the
perfect.
finale.
That seems very
We're idiots.
efficient.
Very efficient. You know what?
Mhm.
We went 4 years without seeing each other. We're never doing that again.
Never again. That's
Never
a
again.
threat.
That's a threat. That is a threat.
Yeah.
There was something else I was gonna say,
What
and
could
now
it
I
be?
don't remember. What could it
Hmm.
be? Must have been a lie. That's what my mom says. Which I like love. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I just think it's funny. Especially if you
Just
say it to someone else, when someone's like, I forget, you're like, must have been a lie.
must have been a lie.
So offensive.
Yeah. Who are you to
Um,
tell me?
who are you to tell me? But I am a bit of a liar, so.
Mm. Only when it's for fun.
Only for
Not
fun.
not in a damaging
No,
way.
not in a damaging way.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, I'm just like really in my mind thinking about all of the Coloradoans that are gonna go on Love's Lines, and I can't wait. It's
Yeah.
gonna be really good.
Me too.
There
There's
have to be like archetypes. You know what I mean? Like there has to be the hiker. There
yeah.
has to be the kind of cowboy
Mhm.
Aggie hick boy. There has to, or girl.
Yeah. Horse
Although
girl. We could get a horse girl on there.
horse girl, like maybe like a bronco. No, they really like played up though the like NFL angle this
Yeah.
year. I was like, can we calm down with that?
Yeah. That was
Like
weird.
passing it to the bronco player. I was like, what does this have to do with anything?
Yeah.
Bo.
Sorry about that. We have a different mascot today.
Yeah, a new mascot, Bobo.
Yeah. He's
Also all
barking.
black.
Yeah. Yeah. He's barking
Fitting.
at the mailman.
Oh,
But
get him. Get him, Bo.
classic. We also need a skier, like a snowboarder
Yeah.
on there.
A
Who's
Breckenridge,
like,
fucking
yeah.
shredding our. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
And also
Steezy.
probably some, like, steezy.
Mhm.
Some, like, boulder, like, stoners. Like, I guess there could be overlap there, but, like, boulder stoners or just, like, new grads. Because I feel like
Yes.
they all, like, fucking 20-year-olds go on this show and want to get married. And I'm like, are
True.
you well?
Yeah.
Probably some, like, conservative, like, pseudo Bible thumpers, too.
Yeah. Yep. And then Denver also has their finance slash tech bros with the Patagonia vests, just like everywhere else.
Just like everywhere else. Oh,
we
hell
get
yeah.
some of
I'm ready
those.
for this.
Mhm.
I'm so
Me
ready for
too.
this. Wow.
Yes. Love
Okay,
it.
well, you came here for the spooks. We'll stop talking about the shitty reality
Reality TV.
TV. Um, what? There's something that I keep thinking that I want to say and I can't remember it.
Hmm.
It's
About
coming.
TV or about our
No,
show?
about our show. Oh, this is going to be our last episode before our hiatus, our spring hiatus. We're gonna have 3 weeks with no episodes. Sad.
Sorry.
Don't cry too hard, everyone. But we will be back. We will be
Yes.
back on the Friday before Easter. So it'll be April 18th. And because it's basically a holiday, it's a Scary Stories episode.
Yep. You know what that
and
means.
then yeah, you know what that means. Scary Stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have 4 more episodes until the end of the season. So we'll break for summer. Our last episode will be May 16, and then we'll be back in probably September.
That's crazy.
Crazy!
Time flies.
And then it'll be spooky season.
Yeah.
I'm ready
perfect.
now, but it's fine.
It's perfect timing for us to come back.
Yeah,
spooky
exactly. Season. Spooky season.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Well, we have another cursed episode today.
Yes.
And this one is Cursed in the Attic.
Ooh.
And I realize that I have 4 and you have 3, so should we just go back and forth?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it's not me just yapping for the next 30 minutes.
That works.
Okay, so 2 of my Cursed in the Attic topics are ones that we've covered before, at least like lightly. One we've covered for real, but I'm gonna just like touch on one really quickly as a reminder, just because it's like spooky and creepy and kind of fun. And then I'll talk about the other one, and then I have 2 new ones.
Excellent.
Yay. Okay. The first one is The Curse of the Crying Boy painting, or paintings, because this is a mass-produced painting. So we have covered this before. I loved this writer's, like, Anne Carney is her name, her take on it. So I'm just going to read directly from her blog.
Okay.
So she says, when I was a young child in the 70s, I became fascinated by a painting in my grandmother's house. The painting was a cheap print of a well-known piece and was hung on the living room wall of her small terraced house. The reason I was so fascinated was that the picture depicted a child. The boy was a similar age to me at the time, and for some reason looked sad and downcast, with tears brimming from his troubled eyes. I was so attached to the painting, I even gave the sad child a name. A few years after the painting went up on the wall, there was a devastating kitchen fire in the house. While the kitchen was destroyed, the rest of the house was undamaged. But despite this, the painting of the boy was removed and thrown into a skip along with the contents of the kitchen. For years, it puzzled me why my grandmother did this until I read a series of articles about a cursed painting. That painting was The Crying Boy. The Crying Boy was one of a series of paintings by artist Giovanni Bragolin, completed in the 1950s. The series depicted young, teary-eyed kids, which, like, why?
Mm-hmm. That's so weird.
While it may seem strange to want an image of a weeping child on your wall, the pictures proved popular all over the world. In the UK alone, over 50,000 copies were sold.
Wow.
Odd. Like, people bought it thinking, like, this is so, like, avant-garde, and it's just, like, a really creepy photo. Yep. The children represented were often poor and very beautiful. One boy's image in particular tugs on the heartstrings, his eyes a sad reflection of his soul, and he became known as the Crying Boy. In total, Bragolin painted over 60 paintings, and up until the early 80s, prints and reprints of his images continued to be mass-produced. In 1985, the most popular tabloid newspaper in the UK printed a story that caused panic and ended the popularity of Bragolin's work. The Sun published an article entitled Blazing Curse of the Crying Boy. The story described the terrible experience of May and Ron Hall after their Rotherham house was destroyed by fire. The cause of the fire, much like my grandmother's, was a chip pan that overheated and burst into flames. And
Wow.
the fire spread, yeah, Jesus. The fire spread rapidly and destroyed everything on the ground floor. Only one item remained intact, a print of the crying boy on their living room wall. Distraught at their loss, the devastated couple made the bizarre claim that the painting was cursed, and it was not the chip pan that was the cause of the fire. The tale would have disappeared into the archives of the strange and mysterious stories that peppered the Sun, except for one thing. A firefighter came forward, claiming that he had attended at least 15 house fires where everything was destroyed, except for one thing. A complete picture of the crying boy, like not touched. So before long, the story starts like picking up momentum, and a rash of fires all over the UK were then blamed on this cursed child. The Sun went on to claim in subsequent articles the following. A woman in Surrey lost her house to a fire 6 months after buying the painting. 2 sisters in Kilburn had fires in their homes after buying a copy of the painting. One sister even claimed to have seen the painting sway back and forth on the wall. A concerned woman on the Isle of Wight attempted to burn her painting without success and then went on to suffer a run of bad luck. A gentleman in Nottingham who possessed a print of the painting lost his home, and his family was injured in that fire. A pizza parlor in Norfolk was destroyed, including every painting on its walls except for the crying boy. And when the Sun reported that even rational firefighters refused to have a copy of the crying boy in their homes, like as if it's like the must-have art piece, we will not have the crying boy. Like, yeah, fair.
Yep.
The reputation of the painting was damned forever. So many cases, like all of these, many more that were reported, this painting remained completely unharmed in all of these fires. And eventually, if there was an image of a crying child by any artist in a house that went on fire, the painting was blamed. So this like turned into like so much more than just this one painting. Some claimed that they experienced bad luck if they attempted to destroy or get rid of their paintings of crying children. Why is this such a common thing? Others were convinced that it was only a matter of time before a disaster struck them. After printing more articles and scare stories, the Sun offered a frightened public a solution. On Halloween 1985, hundreds of the paintings were collected together by the newspaper and burnt under the supervision of the fire brigade. So there's a lot of speculation around like why would this painting be cursed in the first place? So theories ranged from the little boy was a gypsy child whose family placed a curse on the artist. Some claimed that the child had died in a fire himself and his spirit was trapped in the painting. The most enduring story claimed that the crying boy accidentally set fire to the studio of the artist who had painted him. The child's parents had also been killed in a blaze. Wherever the little orphan went, fires mysteriously followed, earning him the nickname Diablo or Devil. The boy supposedly survived to early adulthood, but was tragically killed when his car crashed and burst into flames. Of course. From then onwards, it was his image that carried on his cursed fascination with fire. So there's a bit of a debunking. So various experts offered theories around like, why is this actually happening from like a non-paranormal standpoint? So the very frustrated fire brigade at this point pointed out that in all cases where there had been fires, there was a completely rational explanation. The fires, in almost all cases, could be traced back to human carelessness or electrical faults. What they couldn't explain was the evidence that the paintings often remained intact when everything around them was destroyed. In 2010, a video made by Steve Punt on YouTube, he took the painting of the crying boy and he sets it alight in a bid to decide the matter once and for all. And by the time the fire burns out, the corner of the painting is scorched, but it remains largely intact, and the face remains untouched. The Sun, who first published the story of the crying boy, however, had no trouble incinerating hundreds of copies. So maybe the simplest of explanations is that the picture is printed onto fire retardant materials, which is like other sources also confirm this. Like there's varnish that they use over the top, like the mass producer of these prints, that likely puts a varnish that is flame retardant. So in that way, like they created a fire resistant product that became sort of a victim of its own success. The thing that's interesting though is like, why then, like if a whole house is on fire, I mean, the phrase "like a house on fire" is a phrase for a reason. Like if it is engulfed in flames, like when the sun burned a bunch of them, how is it not damaged? Like that just seems unusual. If everything else is destroyed and it's burning long enough for everything else to be destroyed, it just seems a little peculiar still, and also doesn't entirely explain like the frequency that this is a stretch, I know, and like very speculative, but the frequency of fires in homes that have the painting.
Yeah.
So, yes, there's human error or electrical faults, but like, who's to say that that's not kind of like sped along in some way? So, anyway.
Yeah. It's a good point. Because
Yeah, I
that
don't know.
flame retardant or fire resistant varnish, that couldn't, it has to have a point where it stops working, right?
Exactly.
And if your entire house is smoldering, it's going to be so hot
That's
in
my
there.
point.
That's
so hot.
Yeah.
And if the sun was able to burn them, and this Steve Punt guy was able to burn at least a corner of it, assuming that if the fire had continued going, the whole thing would eventually burn. I don't know. It just seems it does seem a little suspect.
Yes.
So this author closes it out saying, "My grandmother was not a superstitious woman. Indeed, she went on to have another much worse fire some years later when her refrigerator overheated. Wow. Was she right then to throw away her painting of my little friend because of unsubstantiated rumors? I think so. While there is probably a very rational explanation for the phenomenon of the crying boy painting, where curses are concerned, I believe it is better to be safe than sorry." So I just thought that was like kind of like interesting and fun.
Yes. Yeah. I would agree to, just don't take a chance on the crying boy.
Don't do it. I know. So that's a crying boy. Yeah. And now it's your turn for Cursed in the Attic.
Okay. I actually, now that you say that theme, like I didn't realize the connection to the attic at all in any of my stories.
I didn't really either. I didn't until I was looking at one of them specifically, the last one. So I'll get there.
Okay. I think, they're all objects that like you might find in an attic.
Exactly. It's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
We didn't actually like categorize them in this. It was from a book. So,
yeah. So ask them.
If you're not feeling it, we are not to blame.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So another exciting thing real fast, this computer, now that I have a new computer, I can have multiple things open at once.
I know.
So I don't have to look at my phone anymore. So I can actually
read. That was why.
Yeah. Because I had to like send them to my email and then read off my phone. Oh. But now...
That is so annoying. I did not know. I thought you just liked having the second screen. Oh my god, that's so funny. No. I had no idea that's why you used to use your phone.
That's because I didn't want it to cover you, but like now I can see you and have this open.
Your notes. Oh my god.
So, yeah.
But anyway, god.
So my first one is the Baleroy Chair of Death.
Wow. Jesus.
Yeah. So before we talk about the chair itself, we'll talk about where it's housed. So it's in the Baleroy Mansion, which is located in the Chestnut Hill neighborhood of Philadelphia. It's been on many, many paranormal TV shows because there's a lot going on there. The house was first built in 1911, but shortly thereafter, the owner was rumored to have murdered his wife inside the home. Oh. So there were no more details. Yeah, no more details about that, but it just said after her suspicious death, the property was purchased in 1925 by the Easby family. So their paranormal experiences in the house started about a year into them living there, and it kicked off with a shared experience between the two children, Stephen and George. So One day, the kids were peering into the water of a fountain in front of the home, just looking at their reflections, when Stephen's reflection appeared to morph into a skull.
Oh.
Which is so bleak.
Yeah.
And both of them saw it happen. So George, the older brother, also saw his reflection change. But being young kids, they just brushed it off and they didn't really think of it again, except it was just a few years later that Stephen died from a mysterious illness. So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, that's spooky.
It's very spooky. Like, could be a really weird coincidence, I guess.
Yeah.
But seems weird.
But almost like it predicted, like it was like foreshadowed.
Yes.
Ew.
Yeah. Spooky. Yeah, and then things kind of continue with Stephen even after his death, because George witnessed a portrait of him like fly off the wall. It landed about 15 feet from where it was hanging, but the picture
15 feet?
Yeah, that's what it said.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but the wire on the back of the picture and the hook in the wall were still intact, so it was as if it was lifted and then tossed, not like ripped out, you know? So strange.
Very strange.
And even more evidence that it might be Stephen is that George used to see an apparition of Stephen standing at the foot of the bed. So, and he's not the only one. There were employees of the mansion, like groundskeepers, people, who would see a little blonde boy looking out at them from a window in the house. But George was not there. It was a little somebody else. So,
interesting.
Yep. So Stephen is not the only one there either. We also have their mother, Henrietta. She's supposedly very reserved and proper, but she's also very active because she has come forth in these paranormal investigations on more than one occasion. So she's like open, I guess, to being communicated with.
Okay.
They also say that the previous owner is there. She's an elderly woman who is a little bit more feisty. People haven't had the best experiences with her.
That'll be me.
It says
haunting
that
my castle.
Yeah.
In 20 whatever 90.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll be the one asking for the Wi-Fi password.
Or just blasting the year 3000 by the Joe Bros.
Yeah. Perfect. Just every night.
That would scare the shit out of someone.
Yeah, it would. And yeah, I wouldn't get over that.
No.
Okay, so yeah, the feisty one that's like you. And then some people have even said that they've seen the ghost of Thomas Jefferson there, which
what?
he never
You've never been there?
Well, here's the explanation that he never visited or lived there, but George, he grew up in this house. He stayed there until he died in 2005. So however many years that is.
2005. I feel like this should be way older.
I know, because they moved in 1925. I don't know how old he was, but then yeah, he passed away in 2005. So he lived there 90, all his life.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, he lived to be pretty old.
Yeah. So he made peace with everybody, all these entities, whoever was living there. But the reason that people say they might have seen Thomas Jefferson is that George was a collector and he owned several artifacts that belonged to Thomas Jefferson.
Got
so maybe he's connected to those items somehow. Seems like a stretch.
That makes sense.
But
I mean, that does make sense. Like, especially if the Stanley Hotel night tour guide's theory is true, that like you can be tethered to multiple things and places and people.
True. Yeah, that's
that actually would explain a lot of hauntings.
It would. Yeah, you're right.
Especially like when something follows you. I mean, obviously the first thought is like demons, but
Yeah.
in addition to that, like oh yeah, we had a ghost in our childhood home, and then 20 years later I bought my first house and the same ghost was there, like,
Right.
because that totally happens.
Yeah, it does. Yep.
And I
Yeah.
wonder if you can create a tether after you're gone too.
Mhm.
Like if you're tethered to a
Probably.
home, for example, and then as a ghost you encounter or meet a living person, if you
Yep.
can then tether to them and sort of transfer at least part of the tether to a person.
Yeah. I would think you probably can.
Yeah.
Because
I kind of
I
hate that,
know.
actually, in concept.
Yeah. I don't love that, but I do think that happens. Yeah, like you said, that a ghost can be attached to a person, and it's not necessarily somebody that you met in life. So,
right.
interesting. Yeah.
Just a
But
thought.
all that to say, it's a very haunted house. But
Okay.
the star of the show is this death chair of death. So it sits in an infamous 18th century drawing room known as the Blue Room on the second floor of the house. It's a 200-year-old blue chair. It's light blue, it has floral upholstery, it seems totally innocent, but the curse is that whoever sits in the chair seems to die shortly after.
Interesting.
So they say 4 people who have reportedly died after sitting in this chair. This source said that the Chestnut Hill Historical Society can corroborate 3 of the 4. I don't know what the 4th one is, and I only have one example.
Okay.
But I'm sure
But
that
interesting that
you
a
could find.
historical society will confirm 3. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
that's weird.
It's pretty compelling.
I wonder if there's like lead in the paint or something.
Yeah, true. Although the circumstances of the death that I will talk about are like really
maybe not so much
odd. Yeah.
Okay.
So a little bit more about the chair. It was said to be owned by Napoleon, but they think that it was made by a warlock, is what it says. So I assume that means more like someone who practiced the occult, not like a wizard. But
a male witch is a warlock.
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
Just some Gandalf looking ass.
You can't deny that that's the image that comes to mind.
Totally. Actually, what comes to mind for me is the bad guy from the first Halloween Town. Calabar, whatever
Calabar.
his name is.
Calabar's Revenge.
Calabar's Revenge. That's what I think of. But that's not better.
No, not really.
Flowing black capes. It's got a Voldemort kind of energy.
Yes, he does. Yeah, so who knows? I don't know why they have that theory, but it seems like there's something weird going on. Yeah.
Funsies.
Because, yes, the other part of it is that this chair sometimes has, like, inexplicable mist hanging around it, or, like...
Oh my god.
Like, dust floating around, kind of, but when it's not in other places. So the thought is that that's what's, like, taking away their life force when somebody sits there, is whatever is in this mist. So...
Interesting.
Yeah. And they
the warlock gets stronger with every death.
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
No.
But
so scary, though.
It is very scary. And a medium that was checking out the chair said that there's a spirit attached to it, and it's actually a woman named Amelia. So it's not this warlock that made it. It's somebody else. I'm gonna have to not say warlock because I feel like that's just like not
witch,
real.
Witch yeah.
It's somebody that made a chair with bad vibes.
That is
so
bad vibes.
So George, the George Easby, he is well aware of Amelia. He has encountered her presence, but he's never sat in the chair himself. He, in fact, bars people from sitting in
Fair
it when
enough.
they come to his house. Yeah.
Yeah.
He called her a loose cannon. He said she's not mentally well, she's malevolent, and that also people like feel drawn to this chair. So it's like a weird compulsion to go sit
like
in it.
the what's it called? A spindle? Is that what it's called? The thing that you create, like you create gold, like that Rapunzel Sleeping Beauty pricks her finger on in the tower, but she's like drawn to the.
Yes.
Am I making that word up? I
No,
think I
you
am.
aren't. Spindle.
I'm not.
Including, it's a rod for spinning yarn.
Okay. So it's not the whole thing, but what is the whole contraption called?
A loom.
Oh, is it a loom?
Isn't that what a spindle would go on?
I guess, but like the contraption in Sleeping Beauty, I feel like it has like an old school name though.
Oh. I feel like spindle is
spinning gold. Spinning wheel, I guess.
Oh. Yeah.
A wheel which powers the device by a cord connected to a horizontal spindle. But you know where that scene where she's like walking up the steps to the attic with the spinning wheel up there, and she's like,
I can't resist. Yes.
Yeah.
It is like that.
It's giving that vibe. Except you're like led by your butt.
Yeah. I have to sit down.
I must sit my rump upon this chair of death.
Chair of death.
Dear Warlock.
Yeah.
I'm gonna name my firstborn Warlock.
I love it. At least a middle name.
Oh, the bullying that would happen.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't go well for little Warlock.
Yeah, if you're gonna name your kid Warlock, you have to be like ugly rich. I think.
Yeah. That sounds right. Just go by Locky. Yeah.
Locky. Yeah, it's actually kind of cool.
It is cool.
I'm
not gonna do it.
What he thinks.
What's that
just
sound?
Thinking about it. I won't do it. Just thinking about it.
Just thinking about it. Love it.
Wow, that was such a pandemic social media sound.
Wow, was it that long ago?
About it. I'm not gonna do it. I did it because people like chop their hair off.
Yeah, I was just gonna say people giving themselves bangs and stuff. Not turning out well.
Oh. Yeah. Okay, so people are compelled by their butts to sit.
Yes, exactly. But now I just have the story of one of the people who died from this chair, seemingly. Okay. So his name was Paul Kimmins. He was a friend of the Easby family, and he had worked at the mansion for several years. And he, the whole time, was a skeptic, so he never experienced any paranormal activity. But he was asked one day to take this medium named Judith Haynes on a tour around the mansion. And just a little anecdote, she said that from her first steps into the home, she exclaimed, "My God, I can't believe how many spirits are in this house."
My God.
So she was overwhelmed. But being the skeptic that he was, Paul just continued on the tour. And the first weird thing happened to him where he actually did start to see this mist hanging heavily around the stairway and into the blue room. So he was seeing it happening.
But when like a trail of it too, not just like directly around the chair.
Yes. So they think this mist is Amelia, maybe, luring people toward the chair. So he saw that, and then after they both went home for the day, Paul ended up calling the medium, saying that he looked in his rearview mirror and saw like a misty figure in his backseat.
Oh my God.
So he started to have like nightmares. He started to have hallucinations. He started to like feel like he was being touched all the time, and it drove him crazy. And so one day he went into the house. He was found slumped over in the blue room in the chair, and he died a few days later.
Oh.
So that's scary.
That is so scary.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know about the other deaths. And also, what about Stephen? Like, he had a mysterious illness. Like,
yeah, I know.
Could he have died from the chair? Maybe he's the fourth.
Yes, that's true. Could be. That's true. I don't know if they had the chair, because knowing that George is like a collector, collecting from...
He may have collected it later.
He may have gotten it as an adult, because Napoleon... Did I say that? Napoleon once owned the chair?
You did. Okay,
yeah. So fair. Maybe he was, collecting another historical item. But either way, why don't you just get rid of the chair? I would get that out of there. Stat.
But, I also feel, though, like some people, especially people like that, who are like kind of historians in a way, like who are collectors to that degree, may think like, well, it's safer here with me than out in the world. That's where true. Anybody like who doesn't know could just sit on it and die.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Because he can prevent people from sitting there, I guess.
Yeah, so, like stop people from even going in that room.
Yeah, true. Well, on to you.
Well, I see you 4 deaths, and I raise you 63 deaths on my chair of death.
Yikes. Wow.
Yeah.
That's scary.
I can't remember if we covered this one, but this one has a bunch of names. The primary one being the Busby Stoop Chair of Death. Or Death Chair. There are a bunch of names. But anyway, Busby is the key word here. So this chair of death was the favorite chair of a man named Thomas Busby, who was convicted in 1702 for the murder of his father-in-law, Daniel Oddie, whom he supposedly strangled for sitting in his favorite chair after an argument about Thomas's wife, Oddie's daughter, Elizabeth.
Wow.
On his way to the gallows. Yeah, right. But it also is like a spooky nuance to what is obviously to come, given it's called the Chair of Death.
Yes.
On his way to the gallows in 1702, he asked to stop by the pub where this chair was and put a curse on his chair, claiming that anyone who sat in it would be haunted and soon die. It remained in the pub for centuries, and people were, of course, dared to sit in it. Mm-hmm. So that's 1702. During World War II, airmen from a nearby base made the pub a hotspot, and the chair became a quote-unquote hot seat. And people noticed that the ones who sat in it tended to not come back from the war. So there was just like a weird... People were like, weird pattern. Then again... A lot of people weren't coming back from the war. So, possible coincidence. In 1967, 2 Royal Air Force pilots sat in it, and while driving home, they crashed into a tree and died. A few years later, 2 bricklayers decided to try it, and that afternoon, the one who sat in it fell to his death. Like, completely inexplicable, just dropped dead. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The cursed chair has apparently killed every person who sat in it, no matter what.
Whoa.
So one way or another, they're haunted and die, which is what Thomas cursed the chair to have happen.
Yeah.
So some additional instances include a roofer who sat in it and died after the roof he was working on collapsed. A cleaning woman who stumbled into it while mopping was later killed by a brain tumor, like shortly thereafter. Yeah, that one was like accidental.
She didn't even need to.
Which is so shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eventually, the pub owner moved it to the basement. Not the attic, but close. Hoping that no one would sit in it. However, one day, a delivery man was in the basement and sat in it, not knowing what it was. An hour later, he crashed his truck and died.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
This is
Like,
weird.
it's so, like, these things could just happen. So, like, anything bad, and this is a theme in my next topic too, like, anything bad that happens after you attribute it to this. But it's weird because everyone, like, some people didn't know. Like, the delivery man didn't know what this chair was, and he
Right.
still died. Or the
Yeah.
cleaning woman fell into it. It's just like,
Yeah.
what? So it's just very weird. So after that death, the delivery man, the landlord asked the local museum to take it. To ensure that nobody would sit in it again, they hung the chair 5 feet off of the ground. And although people are now safe from sitting in the chair, news stories do still come out about the chair's power. One local was told about a driver who had picked up an airman. The airman asked to go to the bathroom, so they stopped at the Busby Stoop Inn. And while waiting, the driver sat in the chair. When the airman didn't return, the driver left without him. The angered airman had to make his own way back to the base, and when he got back, the airman grabbed a building brick and smashed the head of the driver, killing him.
Whoa.
So, like, the airman didn't know that he sat in the chair, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, obviously that guy was fucked, but
Yeah.
it's just weird. Like, there's something really peculiar about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems that since the museum has made it basically impossible to sit in it, the killing days of the chair are kind of behind it. The museum's still open and functioning with the chair in place as of, December 2014. This is from years and years ago, or a decade ago, but it's probably still there. And it said that for some time prior to death, the time varies in cases, the person who sat in the chair experiences haunting things, including extreme itching, paranoia, hearing voices, severe confusion, items being moved around their space, written warnings on mirrors and walls about their imminent death, in addition to a lot of other strange happenings. So, like,
Weird.
a lot of these people who died would report to their family members, like, there's something weird. Like, I think my house is haunted.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this, like, common theme in a lot of their stories, unless they died, like, immediately after leaving the Stoop Inn.
Ugh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Extreme itching, also, I've never heard of.
I know. And 63 of them?
Yeah.
It's a lot of people.
That is a lot.
It's weird.
I'm glad that they hung it up.
I know, Jesus.
Get that out of the way.
Yeah, so that is Busby's Stoop Inn chair.
Wow. Who would have thought that there were multiple haunted chairs in the world? Not
I didn't know that.
No.
Not I.
And there's probably more, even.
Probably.
Maybe we'll find out.
Maybe we will.
Yep. Okay, my turn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have now a vase, or a vase. If you're fancy.
If you're fancy.
But it's the Basano Vase. So, for centuries, a common wedding gift given to brides of royalty and wealthy families were intricate and expensive vases. So, going back to the 12th century, the Duchess Eleanor of Aquitaine, I think that's how you say it, gifted her husband-to-be King Louis VII a rock crystal vase.
I'm really glad you made that eye squinting when you're looking at the Roman numeral, because I do that every time, and I'm like, am I an idiot?
No, it just takes a second.
5 with the 2, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you just have to get it, get primed.
Yeah, you gotta let it, let your brain buffer a little.
Yes, exactly. Even though 7, I shouldn't need to think about that too hard. It's just
okay. Same.
VII.
Fine.
But,
Fine.
Yep. So anyway, that was just to say that it's not unusual for that to have been a wedding gift. Okay. Except this Basano vase is just silver and very plain looking. There's no intricate markings, no lavish decorations, and it didn't appear to be expensive. But if you believe the legends, the vase contained a curse that would continue to take lives for the next 5 centuries.
Oh my gosh.
So
5 centuries?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Crazy. So they don't know much about the woman who received this vase in the 15th century, other than that her wedding took place in a northern village close to Naples, Italy. The stories say that she didn't know who gifted her this vase to begin with, but how they would know that, I'm not sure.
Right.
But later, when the wedding was going to start, she was nowhere to be found. So people were searching for her.
Uh-oh.
Her husband-to-be searched her room, and found her lying on the ground, clutching the vase, like in a vice grip. And moments later, she was dead.
What?
Yeah. So why she was doing that?
Yeah, why is she holding it?
Right. Very creepy. So after the funeral, the vase was given to one of her family members for safekeeping, but within days, they were also dead. So at the time, people didn't put it together yet. But eventually they start seeing this pattern. So they reached out to a priest for guidance, and they believed that whoever gifted the bride the vase must have put a curse on it, or it had been made with cursed materials. Yeah. So this priest instructed them to bury it in sacred grounds. So many people believe it was buried near the same church where this priest presided over, but it's not exactly known where it was buried because it didn't show up again for 500 years. But it did show up.
And then someone fucking dug it up?
Yes.
Jesus.
So in 1988, a man...
The 80s, man.
Yep.
We weren't alive, and I'm not mad about it.
No. It's a crazy time.
Yeah.
But yeah, he dug it up. He found a note inside that said, "Beware, this vase brings death."
Oh,
the man tossed the note away and brought the vase to an auction house.
Men, am I right?
Yep. I mean, I wouldn't do it, that's for sure.
Crunch, crunch, crunch.
Yeah.
Toss.
Probably nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just buried in a cemetery.
Yeah, no big deal.
Just hallowed ground. This is great. No problem. I think I'll pawn it.
Yep. Yeah. I guess he wasn't going to pawn it. He took it for auction because he was like, okay, I see an opportunity here. So
a vase, if you fancy.
Yes. Since it was an antique, it sold pretty quickly at auction. But 3 months later, the person that bought it died. And so his family sold the vase to somebody else. That person suddenly is dead as well. So at this point, the vase is definitely gaining a reputation. No one is willing to purchase it anymore, except for a collector and archaeologist who purchase it even though his family is like, please don't. And then 3 months later, he dies.
Man, am I right?
Yep. They never listen.
God damn.
Yeah. So they're distraught. They call the police. Because what else do you do with a cursed object? I mean, I guess I probably wouldn't call the police, but I probably would bury it somewhere.
The pigs.
But, yeah. Get the pigs on the case.
Donuts,
so...
little outfits.
The list goes on. Yep. So...
Just quick callback, sorry.
This officer, this pig, he attempts to... That seems wrong.
I know.
When you refer to one individual cop as a pig,
totally.
That's not...
It's like a bridge too far, yeah.
Yeah, yep.
This little piglet.
Yeah, that
cuter. Feels better. Yeah.
Yeah. But this officer, he doesn't really know what else to do with it either. He attempts to give it to a museum. They also refuse it because they just don't want it. So, with no other choice, he goes and buries it somewhere. He puts it in a lead box and then buries it.
Okay.
And now that's kind of the end of its story. And
until cut to 500 years later and someone's gonna fucking
find
unearth it.
We'll see.
And just crunch, crunch, crunch. Toss.
Yep.
The warning.
Doesn't matter.
The death warning.
Yes, exactly.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of reasons to be skeptical about this story, particularly because you would think that when the vase reappeared in the 80s, there would be like some more record of the people that died, or the police officer might have told his story, but nobody, like there are no names or like significant details attached to anybody in the story. So it might be more folklore than an actual cursed object, but it's still a great story.
Very spooky. So, yeah, very spooky.
Yep.
All right, we've got one more. The balls. We've got one more rerun topic here. Okay. And it's Robert the doll. There's nothing creepier to find up in the attic than a doll.
No.
So truly. We've talked about Robert the doll before. Not to be confused with Peggy. Similar but different.
Right.
Robert is known to give you crushing headaches and really fuck up your car in particular. Like bad stuff tends to happen when you don't play by Robert's rules. So if you go visit Robert in Florida, where he is housed in a, I think, paranormal museum.
Yeah.
It's the Art and Historical Museum in Key West, Florida, but it seems like it would be a paranormal museum. Anyway, it's not. You need to ask permission if you're going to say hello to Robert, if you're going to take a photo or a video of Robert. He usually really doesn't like that. So just like don't.
Yeah.
Recommend just not doing that.
Want to look back at him, probably.
No. He also doesn't like being referred to as being scary. He doesn't like people making record of that. Very, very weird things. So we have already covered him in past episodes, but he was on this Cursed in the Attic list because of course he was. And I found a couple just like quick clip little stories that I thought I would share. So this first one is from Reddit. This is RomsK4V. And this is my encounter with Robert the doll. And it's labeled demonic activity. So strong start.
Scary. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So back to 2017, I was 14 when I went to Florida with my family for 3 weeks of beaches, pools, restaurants, and local food. The kind of holidays I will never live again. And one evening, I was on YouTube and I was watching a video of Squeezy, my favorite videographer at the time. And in this video, he was telling the well-known story of Robert the doll. The story begins at the turn of the last century when an African maid of the Otto family, rich and Floridian aristocrats, gives a doll to their son, Robert. From the beginning, Robert falls in love with his doll and never leaves it behind. So much so that he changes his name for Eugene in order to name his doll by his real name. So his name's Robert. He's like, nah, this is Robert. I'm Eugene now.
Whoa.
I don't remember this from when we covered it. So I don't know if this is like folklore or whatever, but this is some like YouTuber saying this.
Wow.
So
interesting.
Legends quickly circulate about this doll. It is said that the maid practiced voodoo magic and bewitched the doll to harm the family. I mean, not shocking.
No.
I'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the family's guests ran out of the Otto's house swearing that the doll had tried to strangle them. Eugene's parents discover bruises and burn marks on their child, a child who amuses himself speaking casually and chatting with Robert by alternating his child's voice with the voice of his doll. A hoarse, almost superhuman, diabolic kind of voice. In short, the Robert doll scares the entire neighborhood and family. Sparing all the scary details that set the context of the story, Eugene ends up dying alone with this allegedly haunted doll. So, really weird relationship with the doll.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
at the end of the video, Squeezy announces that the doll can now be seen in a museum in the United States at the Art and Historical Museum in Key West, Florida. Stunned by this news, I looked to see if this information was true, and by God, it was. I immediately told my parents, asking if we'd be passing through Key West on the trip, and of course, on the last 3 days, just before returning to France, we would make a diversion to Key West, so it was decided. I would meet Robert the doll on the last day of our trip.
Wow.
Key West is the southernmost city in the United States. I didn't know that, French guy. Thank you.
Oh.
If that's true, I mean, I'm taking him at his word.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
You have to take a highway bordered on both sides by the ocean, so it's an extremely isolated little island. Pre-island, he says. As a result, the local folklore is extremely strong, and Robert is known to all. Besides, to justify a mistake, the local children used to say, Robert did it. The last day comes of the trip, and with excitement, my family and I set off for the museum. It was a pretty dilapidated and unwelcoming fort, hollowed out by the time, wind, and sea, with seagulls eating the corpse of their siblings in the car park. Start. We enter, and a redheaded lady in her 50s is at the reception. This literally sounds like a sitcom.
Yeah, it does.
We talked to her to find out about the museum and incidentally to find out about Robert from the most qualified person, the museum guard. There, we don't joke with Robert. To take a picture of him, you have to ask him a question and wait for his answer. Some say that a bright reflection in his black eyes means a positive response. The lady warns us that some people weakly disrespect the doll and end up sending a letter of apology to Robert at the museum so that he will stop his mischief. She adds that there's a video of a man hitting Robert's glass, and this man died later that day in a road accident.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oof.
I, little Frenchie that I was, naively asked if I could ask Robert to take a picture of him, as advised, in French, in a foreign language. And what did the lady reply? Try it. You'll be the very first. We started the visit. My family and I were enchanted. We were like crazy. We explored all the corners of the fort in search of Robert, apprehending all the same our meaning. I don't know what that meant. I think this is Google Translate. We pass old cannons, military costumes, old rusty weapons, and as we turn down a hallway on our right, there he is, Robert, the century-old doll accused of being the reason of multiple unexplained deaths in Key West, the inspiration for Annabelle and Chucky, the main subject of Squeezy's horror video, and here we are, face to face. The doll is quite tall, sitting on a chair and enclosed in a glass case. Behind him, letters of apologies from multiple countries, Mexico, Germany, Qatar, all written in English and imploring Robert to break the curse that he has cast on them, which dissuaded us from being impolite. I take my courage in both hands. I love French sayings. I take my courage in both hands and say, hello, Robert. I am from France and will be delighted to take you in picture. Could I? I take a picture of him and send it to all my friends via Snapchat to show that I was the bravest, reckless kid of my generation. With my photo taken, we hurriedly finish our visit and return to the hotel. The next day, the day of the departure, we don't have breakfast because of a lack of time. We pack our bags, climb into the car to Miami, where we take a plane to France in the afternoon. At 11 o'clock in the morning, though, we come across a Wendy's, fast food specialized in breakfasts. No, it's not, but okay.
Yeah.
We stop to eat there. We sit down, order, wait, receive, eat, pay for our order. When we finish our meal, we go back to the car and are shocked to find it in a really abnormal state. All the windows are broken except for the front one, meaning like the windshield. There's glass everywhere inside the car, as much as on the outside, meaning that the windows exploded and were not smashed from the outside. And more disturbing, our suitcases are intact. My headphones that were on the back seat are still in the same place that they were when I left them. So we weren't robbed. We weren't carjacked. We were not stolen from. The windows just exploded all at the same time as if Robert did it. So
weird.
Robert ne parle pas français, I think, is the message here.
Yeah.
Very creepy though.
Yeah.
Very, very creepy.
That museum lady shouldn't have
No,
like messed with
encouraged
that.
him.
Yeah.
I know,
Come
God.
on.
Okay, I have one more quickie about Robert.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
this is from Dunmiff SYS. I think like Dunder Mifflin.
Nice.
No, not
Dwight.
Okay, so they say, me, my wife, and son took a trip to Key West, driving down from Orlando. During our visit, we heard about Robert, so we made a visit to the museum on our way out of town. My wife is very superstitious and was really nervous when we got to the exhibit. I was teasing her, and I guess, oh my God, sorry, that pissed Robert off. When we went to leave, our car wouldn't start. This was a luxury car, bought new, and was less than a year old, so I was really taken aback. My wife was completely freaking out. AAA arrives and tests the battery. It's dead. So he goes to remove it, and the battery connectors just crumble because they're so corroded. The AAA guy says he has never seen connectors like this. He went to work on the car, and I went back into the museum to apologize to Robert. The museum staff was not at all surprised about the situation. They said, happens all the time.
That's so weird.
I know. And there's a video, I can't remember if we talked about this when we covered him. There's a video like panning down Robert, and it gets to his foot, and you can see his like feet move.
Yes, I think we did talk about that. That's so scary.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. I don't like that.
Would
like
you
as if
want
he's like
to see
adjusting
Robert?
his feet. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I can pass.
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, even if we were really nice to him.
I know.
But
I know.
Still no. Yeah.
Still no. So
Still
that's
no.
just like a quick little recap on Robert.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Robert.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, see
Robert.
You later.
Sorry.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Robert.
Sorry.
Yep. See you later.
We love you. Thank you.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Well, let me see. So I know this is kind of a long one already. So I'll see if I can speed through this final story.
We also can do a part 2 after we come back.
Yeah, we could. What do you think?
Should we do that?
Because how long is your next one?
It's not crazy, but it's not short either.
Okay. I mean, mine can be like summarized pretty easily, but
yeah, but we don't have to rush.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all good.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
All right, y'all. That concludes part 1 of Cursed in the Attic. Part 2 will be coming for you after our Easter scary story episode. So we'll miss you on our hiatus. Yeah. Send us your scary stories. We're going to be doing like a proper call for scary stories since we've gotten like quite a few recently. So we want to keep the vibes. Keep the vibes high.
Keep it coming.
Keep it coming. So girlsgonespooky.com. You can email us at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com. You can DM us at girlsgonespooky on social, whatever. And until after the hiatus, stay spooky.
Stay spooky. Bye.
Bye.